Hey guys, it's your life coach Alyssa Hammond here, and I wanted to talk to you guys about how to cope when you lose a parent. So let me start by saying, if you're watching this because you lost a parent, I feel for you. It is the hardest thing that has ever happened to me. And my dad's been gone for 17 years, and I've never had anything close to the amount of emotion that I felt when I lost him, and even now when I think about it. I just know when I lost him, I felt so incredibly alone, and I was fortunate enough to have two siblings even. It still wasn't enough because they were experiencing everything with me at the same time. So I would have given anything in that moment to have someone who had been through it and gotten through on the other side and said it was going to be okay. So let's just start by saying, as much as it sucks, even if it happened years ago, it still sucks, and it's always gonna suck. Man, this is such a hard topic. But I'm doing this, and I'm not planning it the way that I do with a lot of videos where I kind of have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. I was like, I'm just going to turn this on and talk about how I got through it. So to give you a little bit of the story, my dad died when I was 10. It was 10 days before I was about to turn 11. My sister was 8, and I think my brother was 13. We did not see it coming. We were at a family reunion. He died in his sleep from something called cardiomyopathy, which is a heart issue that was never diagnosed. So as a kid who absolutely adored her dad, it rocked my whole world when this happened. And no one knew because he wasn't diagnosed. So I went to bed one night. I didn't even say goodnight to him. And he was gone the next day. My sister found him sleeping in bed. Yeah, it rocked my whole world. And he was the best dad. I mean, people who've never even met me, they'll meet me for the first time and they'll say, your dad was a great man. He really loved his kids. And I don't know if that makes it better or that much harder because, you kind of question, like, would all this be easier if he wasn't so great? When I see these bad parents who don't care about their kids, and that was just not the case with him. So it took me a long time to work through those feelings, especially the guilt, because I was a kid, and kids don't think to say goodnight to their parents. So I just went to bed and didn't see him again. And it was something I had to work through in therapy and get past that guilt, because I know my dad knew I loved him, and he knew how close we were. So I would definitely recommend seeing a therapist. I tried this therapy called EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing. Google it. It's really fascinating. I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about it, but this therapist realized that when people are having anxiety attacks, their eye movement tends to go up and down. So she thought, if I can make them think about this traumatic experience and force their eyes to move in the opposite direction that they typically move, can we kind of reassign meaning to this traumatic experience? And in my case, absolutely yes. I think everyone should do EMDR. Absolutely has changed my life. And that's one thing where, as a life coach, I can only do so much to help. Sometimes you need to hire a therapist because therapists deal with emotions. Life coaches take people who are already in a pretty decent emotional space but want to reach peak performance, and they help them get there. So seeing a therapist is something I would really recommend. There are a lot of things that I would do differently now than I did as a kid, but I would say just let yourself just wallow in pity for as long as you need, because it's better to spend 3 weeks crying and then every other day maybe you cry for like the next 4 months, but you start to get your life back in order. That's better than not processing it and putting up a wall around the people you love. Because I have seen some people who, they're scared for that to happen to them again, so they don't want to get connected to anybody else, and that is no way to live. If they're not going to be here, you should try to live the best life you can so that you can do them honor. I always try to live my life so that it's honoring my dad. I would never say that it's been a great thing in my life losing my dad. It's been the worst thing. But there are some benefits of perspective when you go through traumatic things like that when you're little. So because he's gone and I want to do things in his honor, it's encouraged me to always stay true to myself. To always ask myself, if my dad's watching me right now, would he be proud? My dad was very active in his community. Am I doing that? Am I being selfless or am I being selfish? So trying to honor him has been a way for me to find a lot of peace in this whole experience. Another thing I would say that is helpful is if you have a dog. Dogs are very intuitive. And if you don't have a dog, get one. They have hypoallergenic ones. The amount of joy that really any pet brings into your life is so worth the money that you have to put into feeding them and taking them to the vet once a year. But dogs especially are very intuitive to what our needs are. And my dog Noli, she knows when I'm sad about something. And she'll come nuzzle me, and it is like the most amazing experience to feel that compassion from an animal. And I've definitely heard that about horses and cats. My husband's a physical therapist, and he actually said one of his patients had a therapy hamster. So like a therapy dog, but they literally would like take the little hamster and like rub its little belly while they were in sessions with him. I think that's great. Whatever you need. But I'm just saying, feeling a connection with something other than human is nice, because sometimes humans just don't know what to say. That was probably one of the hardest things for me to experience. Is I was basically about to be 11 when it happened. None of my friends had been through that. No one knew what to say to me. I mean, most of my friends' parents hadn't even been through that. When you have the ability to connect with something without having to use words, it can be really powerful. And as much pain as there is in losing a parent, there's also a whole community of people who have also lost parents. So my sister, I remember a year or two after my dad died, she did a camp for kids who had lost their parents. And they all went and spent a week with each other, and they did all these crafts, and they made a quilt. And she has these things that she can look to when she's struggling. So I know certainly if I had a kid that was going through that, then I would want to send them to a camp, because I want them to not feel alone. And with siblings, if they're going through it too, they may not be the best source of support. Each of my siblings handled it totally differently when my dad died. My brother picked up a book, and I feel like I didn't see him for days. I think he read like the whole Harry Potter series, because he didn't want to talk to anybody. And he had every right to do that. None of us knew what to say to each other, because there was nothing, I'm getting emotional. There was nothing we could say to make it better. And that's the most painful thing. Having these fleeting moments where you forget and you think, I'm going to draw dad a picture, or I'm going to yell dad's name because the Giants game is on and I know he would want to watch that. And you go to do it and they're not there. And it's like this open wound. And it's gotten easier. It has. I mean, in some ways it'll never be easier. And in other ways, time has healed a lot of wounds and has taught me a lot about just knowing that I'm not going to have the answers to everything and having to be okay with that. One of the ways I wanted to cope was I wanted to blame someone. And I know this sounds so twisted, but I almost wished that my dad, if he had to be dead, that he was killed. And I know that sounds bizarre, but I needed someone to be mad at. And I had no one to be mad at. I just had to be like, he's not here anymore. Nothing I say is going to change that. And I'm going to have to spend the rest of my life hanging out with people who don't appreciate their parents, who complain because their parents are checking up on them, and feeling this huge disconnect from people. And just feeling like, God, if like he took some kind of over-the-counter medication and it killed him, then at least I would have someone to channel all this anger toward. But there was no one. So it just stayed inside me. And through talking with a therapist, to talking to anyone that would listen, to spending time with, my childhood dog at the time, who was really comforting when I was struggling, to getting involved with community service and keeping myself busy. Those things really helped. And keep telling yourself it's going to get better. But God, it sucks. It sucks so bad. I mean, when I was getting married, I knew my husband was the person I was meant to marry. And I kept having this feeling of like, why do I not want to plan the wedding? This is bizarre. I had a Pinterest board for my wedding. I always thought I wanted to. And then when it came time to actually do it, I felt suffocated whenever I would do it. And I just had an epiphany one day that it just didn't feel right doing it without my dad. Not having him walk me down the aisle and not having him do the first dance. I was never going to have that. And there's just no way to make that suck less. I would really encourage writing out your feelings. Journaling will be really helpful. And I also do this journaling technique where every day I'll write the date at the top. So it'll say today is July 11th. So I'll write July 11th, and then underneath it'll say 2017, and I'll write out one good thing from the day. So even if it's like a shit day where I'm really, really sad, if I find something that was good, like I had a good interaction with someone, I found a new show I like, I was reading a book I really like, or found a great YouTube video that helped me with something I was struggling with. Having that kind of forces you to get out of that state of pain. But I want to be clear that it's okay to spend as much time in that pain as you need to. And anyone who tells you that you can't either doesn't know because they haven't been there, or they are being inconsiderate. I really don't see any other way around it. Because anyone who tells you, especially if they haven't experienced it, that you need to buck up, that would be probably the kind of person I would distance myself from. And I just want you to know there's a whole community of us who have lost a parent. And I'm here. I'll leave my email below, and you can send me an email if you ever want to talk. I'm here. And check out EMDR, because it's life-changing. It reprocesses your brain. And I think everyone should do it, even if they haven't lost a parent. If this message resonated with you, let me know in the comment section, because I'd really like to know if just hearing someone else talk about it helps even in the slightest bit. And if you have any other tips for any of the other viewers, then I think it would be great to see you list them, because there's no shortage of ways to make people feel better, and I'm sure I've missed some. So, stay strong, you guys, and I am so sorry again. I mean, it's just awful. It's awful that this has to happen, especially when people are taken prematurely, because you feel like you have the rug ripped out from under you. And it's very hard to not look at every relationship like that and not worry that this is going to happen again. But if you like this kind of content, let me know. Click like, subscribe. I can do more stuff on death and coping, and I'm happy to help. If you have other topics you want me to talk about, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll make sure to get to them. Thanks, guys.